Welcome back to the deep dive.
It's great to be here.
Today we're diving into the world of hearing and smell.
Oh, interesting.
Two senses we often kind of just take for granted.
Yeah, for sure.
And you've given us a really interesting mix of sources for this deep dive.
Okay.
We've got some medical research papers on hearing loss and multiple sclerosis, and then some college lecture notes covering hearing, smell, and even taste.
Wow, that's quite a range.
Yeah, and it seems like you're really interested in kind of the mechanics of these senses, like
Yeah.
how they work, what can go wrong, and even how they can impact our social lives.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a fascinating deep dive.
I think so. Let's get to it.
Okay, sounds good.
This research on hearing loss and multiple sclerosis is pretty fascinating.
Yeah.
It's not something you typically think of
Right.
when you think about MS, but it turns out hearing abnormalities are actually surprisingly common.
Yeah, they are. They can be.
And what's really striking is just the variety of ways
Yeah.
that hearing can be affected.
Yeah.
Like the research outlines 4 unique cases
Okay.
that really demonstrate this.
Really?
So for instance, one individual
Okay.
experienced sudden hearing loss in one ear as the very first symptom of MS.
Wow. That must have been,
That's pretty scary
yeah,
to have that happen.
incredibly disorienting, I would imagine.
Yeah, absolutely.
And an MRI in this case revealed a lesion
Okay.
on the superior temporal gyrus, which is a part of the brain that's really vital for processing sound.
Right. So it's like a key
Yeah,
processing center got disrupted,
exactly.
leading to that sudden hearing loss.
Yeah, fascinating.
Yeah.
Then there's another case described,
Okay.
someone waking up with tinnitus in both ears at the same time.
Oh, wow.
I can't even imagine
Yeah.
what that would be like.
That would be rough.
Yeah, what caused that specific type of hearing loss?
Well, in this case,
Yeah.
they actually pinpointed the cause to a very specific location.
In the brainstem called the trapezoid body.
Okay.
And it turns out that this is the only area in the brain where a single lesion
Wow.
can cause simultaneous hearing loss in both ears.
That's pretty amazing.
It is, yeah.
It really kind of shows how intricate and delicate
Right.
the auditory system is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the third case mentioned polyneurosis,
Oh, okay.
which is this really unusual symptom.
Yeah, I haven't heard of that one.
Yeah, so this is where sounds persist even after they've stopped.
So, like an echo.
Yeah, kind of like an echo. Imagine hearing an echo of someone's voice even after they've stopped talking.
That would be pretty strange.
Yeah, it would be really disorienting, I imagine.
Yeah, definitely.
And this particular case was linked to lesions on the auditory nerve,
Okay.
and once again, the superior temporal gyrus.
Interesting.
So it shows how damage to different parts of the auditory pathway
Yeah,
can produce very different effects.
right. Different parts of the brain,
Right.
different types of hearing problems.
Yeah, exactly.
That's fascinating.
So these cases are just such powerful examples of how the location of a lesion in the brain can just dramatically alter
Right.
our sensory experiences.
Yeah.
It makes you realize how important it is to really understand
Yeah.
the anatomy and the physiology of hearing.
Absolutely. And speaking of that,
Yes.
your lecture notes actually provide a really nice overview
Yeah.
of how sound travels from the outer ear all the way to the brain.
Yeah, it's a pretty remarkable journey when you think about it.
It is, yeah.
So let's start at the beginning.
Okay.
That external ear, the part we see,
Yeah.
acts like a funnel, guiding sound waves towards the eardrum.
Right. So it's just directing those sound waves.
Yeah. And did you
Yeah.
know
Mhm.
that the shape of our ears actually helps to filter different sound frequencies?
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, providing cues about the location of a sound source.
Wow. So the shape of our ear isn't just for looks.
Yeah,
It actually plays a functional role in how we hear.
exactly.
That's cool.
And then those sound waves reach the middle ear,
Uh-huh.
where we've got those tiny bones, the malleus, incipus, and stapes.
Yeah.
They work together to amplify the vibrations from the eardrum
Okay.
and transmit them to the oval window, which is the entrance to the inner ear.
So they're like little amplifiers.
Yeah, it's amazing how these tiny structures can amplify sound.
Yeah.
And then we get to the inner ear,
Okay.
specifically the cochlea,
Uh-huh.
which is this spiral-shaped fluid-filled chamber.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where sound vibrations are transformed
Okay.
into those nerve impulses
Right.
that our brain can actually understand.
Yeah, that's where the magic happens.
Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting for me.
Yeah.
Tell me more about how that transformation actually happens.
So essentially, different sound frequencies
Mm-hmm.
cause waves to peak at different locations
Okay.
along the length of the cochlea.
So different frequencies are hitting different parts
Exactly, yeah.
of the cochlea.
Yeah, and the structure of the cochlea actually plays a role in that.
Oh, interesting.
So high-frequency sounds
Okay.
cause vibrations near the base of the cochlea,
Okay.
where the membrane is very stiff.
Okay.
Low-frequency sounds travel further down to the apex of the cochlea,
Okay.
where the membrane is wider and more flexible.
So the cochlea is kind of like a
It is, yeah.
frequency map.
Yeah, like a tonotopic map.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah.
What happens when those waves reach their destination?
Well, that's where those tiny hair cells
Okay.
on the basilar membrane come into play.
Okay.
They're the real heroes of hearing.
Yeah, they're doing the hard work.
They are.
So tell me about them. How do they do it?
So when that basilar membrane vibrates, those hair cells bend.
Okay.
And that bending triggers nerve impulses
Okay.
that then travel to the brain through the auditory nerve.
It's incredible how these tiny structures play such a vital role in our ability to hear.
Right. It's amazing what they do.
Yeah. And it really makes you appreciate the complexity
Yeah.
of something we often take for granted.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, your notes also touch on different types of hearing loss, which I'd love to delve into a little bit.
Okay, yeah. So there are two main types,
Okay.
conductive and sensorineural.
So could you break those down for us a little bit?
Yeah, so conductive hearing loss is basically when something is physically blocking
Okay.
sound waves from reaching the inner ear.
So that could be like earwax buildup?
Exactly, yeah. Earwax buildup,
Yeah.
damaged eardrum,
Yeah.
fluid in the middle ear.
Okay.
So it's often treatable.
Right.
You remove the blockage or you use hearing aids.
Okay, so that makes sense. What about sensorineural?
Sensorineural hearing loss is a little bit more complex.
Okay.
It involves damage to the inner ear itself.
So those delicate hair cells we were talking about?
Exactly, those hair cells.
Yeah.
Or to the auditory nerve.
Okay.
That carries the signals to the brain.
And what typically causes that type of hearing loss?
Well, it can be caused by a variety of factors.
Okay.
Aging is a big one.
Okay.
Exposure to loud noises over time.
Oh, okay.
Certain medications.
Okay.
Genetic predispositions.
Interesting.
So there are a number of things that can contribute.
And how is it treated?
Well, it depends on the severity
Oh, okay.
and the specific cause.
Okay.
But sometimes it can be permanent, unfortunately.
Oh, okay.
But there are options like cochlear implants,
Okay.
which can be very effective for some individuals.
And how do those work?
So cochlear implants bypass those damaged hair cells,
Okay.
and they directly stimulate the auditory nerve.
Wow. So it's kind of like a technological workaround.
It is, yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable technology.
So with conductive, the issue is the sound getting to the inner ear.
Right.
But with sensorineural, the structures within the inner ear.
Exactly.
Or the nerve itself that's damaged.
Yeah.
Now, are there any kind of easy ways to distinguish between these two types of hearing loss?
Yeah, so doctors actually use two simple tests,
Okay.
the Weber test and the Rin test,
Okay.
both of which involve using a vibrating tuning fork.
Okay.
So it's a very simple tool,
Yeah.
but it can give you a lot of information.
And how do those tests help to figure out which type of hearing loss it is?
So in the Weber test,
Yeah.
the tuning fork is placed on the center of the head,
Okay.
and the patient is asked if they hear the sound equally in both ears
Okay.
or louder on one side,
Okay.
and the answer can give you clues about where the problem is.
Interesting.
So, for example,
Okay.
if the sound is louder in the ear with the hearing loss, it suggests a conductive problem.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then the Rin test
Okay.
compares air conduction to bone conduction.
Okay.
So the tuning fork is placed first on the bone behind the ear
Okay.
and then near the ear canal.
Okay.
And the patient is asked which sound is louder.
Okay.
And that helps to determine if the middle ear is conducting sound properly.
So those tests are really clever.
They are, yeah.
They use such basic tools
Wow,
to get
Granny.
so much information
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
about the auditory system.
Yeah.
It's amazing what you can learn with just a simple tuning fork.
It is, yeah. It's a testament to the people
Yeah.
who developed these techniques.
Yeah, for sure.
Now that we've kind of explored the intricacies of hearing,
Mm-hmm.
maybe we can shift gears a little bit
Yes, let's do it.
and talk about another fascinating sense,
Okay.
smell.
Yeah, let's dive into olfaction.
All right.
Your lecture notes really emphasize the
Yeah.
complexity of this sense,
It is really complex.
which we often underappreciate.
Yeah, we do. It's true.
So I'm ready to be fascinated.
Okay.
Where do we even begin?
Well, let's start with the basics.
Okay.
The journey of smell actually begins high up in your nasal cavity
Okay.
in a patch of tissue called the olfactory epithelium.
Okay, the olfactory epithelium.
And it's packed with millions of specialized cells called olfactory receptor neurons, or ORNs for short.
ORNs, got it.
These are the key players in detecting all those different odor molecules.
So when we smell something like
Yeah.
freshly baked bread, for example, those odor molecules are interacting with the ORNs in our nose.
Exactly, yeah.
And then what happens?
Well, when an odor molecule
Okay.
binds to its matching receptor on an ORN, it triggers a whole chain reaction
Okay.
that ultimately sends an electrical signal to the brain.
And that's how we perceive that specific smell.
Exactly, yeah.
So where in the brain does that signal go?
So the signal travels to the olfactory bulb,
Okay.
which acts like a relay station,
Okay.
sending the information to other parts of the brain for further processing.
Okay, so what are some of those other areas of the brain?
So some of the key areas involved include the piriform cortex,
Okay.
which is responsible for recognizing and discriminating between different smells,
Okay.
and the amygdala,
Okay, the amygdala, yeah.
which is involved in processing emotions,
Okay.
particularly fear and disgust.
Interesting.
And it also helps us to link smells to memories and emotional experiences.
So that explains why certain smells can be so powerful
Right.
in evoking those really vivid memories.
Exactly. Yeah, they can really transport you back in time
Yeah.
to a specific moment or place.
It's incredible how tied
It is, yeah.
smell is to our emotional experiences.
Absolutely.
Now, I've always kind of wondered, we hear about how dogs have this superior sense of smell.
Yeah, they do.
Why is that?
Well, it comes down to the number and types of olfactory receptors.
Okay.
Dogs have a much larger olfactory epithelium
Okay.
and many more receptor types than humans.
Wow, so they're really experiencing
Yeah.
a whole world of smells that we can't even fathom.
Exactly, yeah.
That's incredible. Is there anything else from your notes about olfaction?
Yeah, actually, there's one key point I wanted to mention.
Okay.
Each olfactory receptor neuron, so those ORNs we talked about,
Yeah.
only expresses one type of odorant receptor.
Okay, so if each ORN only has one type of receptor,
Yeah.
how do we perceive such a wide range of smells?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And the answer lies in something called combinatorial coding.
Okay, combinatorial coding.
Yeah, so essentially each odor molecule doesn't just activate one receptor.
Okay.
It activates a unique combination of receptors,
Okay.
creating a specific pattern of activation that the brain then interprets.
So it's not just about a single receptor firing.
Right.
It's about the overall pattern of activity.
Exactly, yeah.
Across multiple receptors.
It's like a smell fingerprint.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned the olfactory bulb acting as a relay station.
Right.
Sending those signals to different parts of the brain.
Yeah.
Can you remind me what some of those key areas are again?
Yeah, so aside from the piriform cortex and amygdala that we already talked about, one really important area is the entorhinal cortex,
Okay.
which acts as a gateway to the hippocampus,
Okay.
which is a key structure for forming new memories.
So that connection helps to explain
Exactly, yeah.
why smells can trigger those vivid memories.
Yeah, it's like a direct link between smell and memory.
It's amazing. And what other areas?
Another key area is the orbitofrontal cortex,
Okay.
which is involved in decision-making
Okay.
and assigning value to things, including smells.
Okay.
So it helps us to determine whether a smell is pleasant
Okay.
or unpleasant,
Okay.
and whether we should approach it.
So that's how we decide
Right.
whether we love freshly baked cookies
Yes.
or hate spoiled milk.
Yeah, the orbitofrontal cortex is helping us
Yeah.
make those judgments.
It's making those value calls.
It is, yeah.
It's incredible to think about all that neural activity
Right.
happening
Yeah.
every time we take a sniff.
Every sniff, yeah, it's amazing.
Now, before we move on to taste,
Okay.
I'm curious about the vomeronasal organ.
Ah, yes, the VNO.
The VNO, so you mentioned it's prominent in a lot of animals.
Yeah, in many animals.
But less so in humans.
Right.
What's its role?
So the VNO is a specialized olfactory structure,
Okay.
specifically for detecting pheromones.
Okay, so pheromones,
Yeah.
remind me what those are again.
So pheromones are chemical signals
Okay.
released by animals that can influence the behavior or physiology of other members of the same species.
So they're like chemical messengers
They are, yeah.
that carry information
Exactly.
between individuals.
Okay.
Got it.
And in many animals, the VNO plays a crucial role in a variety of social behaviors.
Like what?
Mating, territoriality, aggression.
Oh, wow. Oh.
So it's really important for social communication
Yeah.
in many species.
But you said it's less prominent in humans.
Yeah, it is.
Does that mean we don't respond to pheromones at all?
Well, that's still a matter of debate.
Okay.
The VNO is present in human embryos,
Huh?
but it appears to regress during development.
Okay.
So there's no clear evidence
Yeah.
that it's functional in adult humans.
So the jury's still out on whether they're secretly influenced by pheromones.
It's a mystery.
That's really interesting. So even without a fully functional VNO,
Yeah.
we do still respond to certain chemical signals.
Oh, we do, yeah.
Like, those found in body odor.
Right.
That can influence our social interactions.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Makes you wonder how much of our behavior is influenced by these cues.
Yeah, subconsciously.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
Now, I know we need to move on to taste.
Okay.
But I did want to touch on a couple more points about hearing from your lecture notes.
Okay.
I was really intrigued by the idea of frequency tuning
Yeah.
in the inner ear.
Yeah. So in the cochlea,
Yeah.
different frequencies stimulate different parts of the cochlea.
Yeah. And how does that happen?
So the basilar membrane structure
Okay.
plays a crucial role in this frequency tuning. So high-frequency sounds cause vibrations near the base of the cochlea, where the membrane is very stiff.
Okay.
Low-frequency sounds travel further down the cochlea, where the membrane is wider and more flexible.
So it's really the physics
It is, yeah.
of the system
The physics of the basilar membrane.
that determine
Yeah.
how we perceive different pitches.
Yeah, they're pretty cool.
And those hair cells, they're just so essential
They are.
for converting those vibrations into neural signals.
Yeah, they're the transducers.
And they're so delicate.
They are, yeah.
Loud noises can really damage them.
They can. And that can lead to noise-induced hearing loss.
And that's often permanent, right?
Unfortunately, yes. In many cases, it is.
Good reminder to protect our hearing.
Absolutely.
Okay, now let's dive into smell.
Okay, let's do it.
So those olfactory receptor neurons,
Those ORNs.
the ORNs, they're the real stars of the show.
They are, yeah.
And you mentioned they're located up in the nasal cavity in the olfactory epithelium.
That's right, yeah.
And each ORN expresses only one type of odorant receptor.
Exactly, yeah.
And there are hundreds of different receptor types.
There are, yeah. It's amazing.
So you've got this incredible diversity of receptors.
It's like a lock and key system.
Okay.
Each receptor is waiting for its matching odor molecule.
Okay, so when that odor molecule binds, it triggers that cascade that sends that signal to the brain.
Right.
But I'm still a little bit puzzled by how we perceive such a vast array of smells.
Yeah.
If each ORN only expresses one type of receptor.
Right.
So we talked about combinatorial coding.
Yeah.
Can you explain that a little bit more?
Yeah, so think of it this way. Each odor molecule doesn't just activate one receptor.
Okay.
It activates a unique combination of receptors.
Okay.
So it creates a specific pattern of activation, almost like a code.
Like a smell fingerprint.
Exactly, yeah, a smell fingerprint.
And that's how the brain...
And the brain then interprets that code.
To identify the smell.
Exactly.
Okay, so it's not about a single receptor firing.
Right.
It's about the overall pattern of activity.
It is, yeah.
Across multiple receptors.
Yeah, that's the key.
That's amazing, the brain's ability to decipher all that.
It is, yeah, it's really remarkable.
It is, and you mentioned the olfactory bulb.
Yeah.
Sending those signals to different parts of the brain.
Right.
Can you just remind me some of those key areas again?
Yeah, so one important area is the piriform cortex.
Okay.
Which is often considered the primary olfactory cortex.
Okay.
It's involved in recognizing and discriminating between different smells.
Okay.
And then there's the amygdala,
which
we talked about before.
Yeah.
Plays a crucial role in processing emotions, especially fear and disgust.
Okay.
It also helps us associate smells with memories and emotional experiences.
So that's why certain smells can evoke such strong emotions.
Exactly, yeah.
Like it's triggering a memory.
Right, it's like a direct link to that memory.
Wow, okay. And what other areas?
Another key area is the entorhinal cortex, which acts as a gateway to the hippocampus,
Okay.
a key structure for forming new memories.
So that connection helps to explain
Right.
why smells can be so powerful in triggering those vivid memories.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
That direct link
Yeah.
between smell and memory.
It is, yeah.
And then last one?
And lastly, there's the orbitofrontal cortex,
Okay.
which is involved in decision-making
Okay.
and assigning value to things,
Okay.
including smells.
Concluding smells, okay.
So it helps us determine whether a smell is pleasant or unpleasant
Okay.
and whether we should approach or avoid it.
So it's helping us to decide
Exactly.
if we love the cookies or hate the milk.
Yeah, exactly. The orbitofrontal cortex is making those judgments.
It's making the value call.
It is, yeah.
It's incredible.
It is, yeah.
And think about all that happening behind the scenes.
Right.
Every time we sniff something.
Every sniff, yeah.
Amazing.
It's incredible.
Well, that was a fascinating deep dive into the world of smell.
It is, yeah.
We've covered a lot of ground.
We have.
Odorant receptors.
Yeah.
Combinatorial coding. Pheromones. VNO.
The elusive VNO.
It's remarkable how much information
It is, yeah.
we can glean from a simple sniff.
Absolutely.
So now let's move on to the final sense on our list.
Okay.
Taste.
Taste, right.
Now we've already kind of touched on how taste and smell are intertwined.
They are, yeah.
But I'm eager to kind of dive deeper into taste itself.
Okay, yeah.
And your notes about taste buds are fascinating.
Yeah, taste buds are really cool.
So it's not just about
Right.
those bumps on our tongue.
No, it's not just the bumps.
It's a whole system.
Yeah, it's a complex system.
Of specialized cells working together
It's exactly.
to create that perception of flavor.
That's right.
So those bumps on our tongue are actually called papillae.
Papillae, yeah.
And they house the taste buds,
Okay.
which are the real sensory powerhouses.
Yeah, they are.
So the papillae are like...
They're like little platforms.
Yeah, little
For
platforms.
the taste buds to sit on.
And each taste bud is packed with taste receptor cells, right?
That's right, yeah.
So tell me about those, like, do they each detect all 5 basic tastes?
Okay, so you're talking about sweet, sour, salty, bitter, and umami.
Yeah, those 5.
So actually, each taste receptor cell
Okay.
is specialized to detect only 1 or 2 of those basic tastes.
Okay, so not all 5.
Not all 5, no.
Okay, so there are different.
Different types of taste receptor cells,
Okay.
each tuned to a specific taste or 2.
Got it. Okay.
So you'll have some cells that are specifically for sweetness,
Okay.
others for bitterness, and so on.
So it's like a division of labor.
Exactly. Yeah, a division of labor
within the taste bud.
within the taste bud, yeah.
Okay.
Each cell is contributing to the overall perception of flavor.
And they're constantly sending signals to the brain, right?
That's right, yeah, through those nerve fibers.
Okay, so how does that signal transduction process work?
So how do they actually detect those tastes?
Yeah, like what's happening at the molecular level?
So it depends on the taste.
Right.
For salty and sour tastes, it's all about ion channels.
Okay, ion channels.
So for example, when you taste something salty like table salt,
Okay.
those sodium ions from the salt
Yeah.
enter the taste receptor cell
Okay.
through these specialized ion channels.
Okay.
And that influx of ions triggers an electrical signal.
Oh, so it's like a direct electrical response
It is, yeah.
to those ions.
For salty and sour, it is.
That's fascinating. What about sourness?
So sourness also involves ion channels,
Okay.
but in a slightly more complex way.
Okay.
So acids, which are responsible for those sour tastes,
Okay.
they release hydrogen ions.
Okay.
And those hydrogen ions can actually block certain potassium channels
Interesting.
in the taste receptor cell.
Okay.
And that blocking leads to depolarization
Okay.
and the generation of an electrical signal.
So both salty and sour
Yeah.
involve changes in ion flow
Right. It is.
across the cell membrane,
Yeah,
which then trigger an electrical signal that goes to the brain.
that's right.
What about sweet, bitter, and umami?
Okay, so those 3 tastes,
Yeah.
they actually rely on a more indirect mechanism
Okay.
involving G-protein coupled receptors, or GPCRs.
Ah, GPCRs. They're like the all-stars
They are, yeah.
of cellular signaling.
They're involved in so many different processes
Yeah.
throughout the body.
Yeah, they're like the universal cellular messengers.
Exactly.
Okay, so tell me about how they work in taste.
So in taste receptor cells,
Yeah.
specific GPCRs are responsible for detecting those sweet, bitter, and umami tastes.
Okay.
So when a molecule like sugar, for example,
Okay.
binds to its sweet receptor,
Yeah.
it activates this whole cascade of intracellular events
Okay.
that ultimately leads to the release of neurotransmitters,
Okay.
which then signal to those nerve fibers connected to the brain.
So it's a more complex chain of events.
It is, yeah. Than this direct ion channel mechanism
Right, exactly.
for salty and sour.
Yeah, for salty and sour, it's much more direct.
Okay, and each of these tastes
Yeah,
has its own set of receptors
it does, yeah.
and signaling pathways.
Exactly, and that specialization
Yeah.
allows us to distinguish between those different tastes.
That's incredible.
It is, yeah, it's really remarkable.
How our taste system has evolved
Right.
to be so sophisticated
Absolutely.
and to detect and decode
Yeah.
all these different chemical signals.
It's amazing what our bodies can do.
Now, as we've already kind of touched on,
Yeah.
taste isn't just about the taste buds.
It's not, no.
It's multisensory.
It is, yeah.
We've got smell,
Smell, texture.
temperature, even visual cues.
Visual cues, absolutely.
So when we savor a delicious meal,
Yeah.
we're really engaging all of our senses
We are, yeah.
to create that experience.
Right. It's like a symphony of sensory input.
It really is. And so how does our brain...
Integrate all that information.
So all those signals from the taste buds,
Yeah.
olfactory bulb, and those other sensory areas, they all converge in the brain,
Okay.
specifically in an area called the gustatory cortex.
The gustatory cortex.
And it's in the gustatory cortex
Okay.
that our perception of flavor is actually created.
Wow. Okay, so it's not just about the taste itself.
Right.
It's about how our brain puts it all together.
It is, yeah. It's the integration of all those signals.
And I imagine that interpretation can be influenced by so many things.
It can, yeah.
Like our past experiences.
Past experiences, memories, our cultural background.
Cultural background, absolutely. All of those things shape our perception of flavor.
And you mentioned hedonic learning
Yeah.
earlier. Can you kind of elaborate on that?
Yeah, so hedonic learning is basically how our brain learns
Okay.
to associate certain tastes with positive or negative experiences.
Okay.
So it explains why we might start to like a food
Yeah.
that we used to dislike
Or vice versa.
because of some experience we've had.
Exactly, yeah. So maybe you had a really positive experience
Yeah.
with a certain food that you didn't used to like,
Okay.
and now you love it.
Or you got sick.
Or you got sick, and now you can't stand it.
Yeah. So it's not just about the taste buds themselves.
Right.
It's our brains updating.
It is, yeah.
Our preferences based on our experiences.
It's like a dynamic feedback loop
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
between our senses and our brain.
And that plasticity is actually important for survival, right?
It is, yeah.
You were saying.
It allows us to adapt to changing food environments
Okay.
and to avoid potentially harmful substances.
It's amazing how adaptable
It is, yeah.
our taste system is.
Our bodies are amazing.
You mentioned something called mixture suppression earlier.
Yeah.
Can you explain that a little bit more?
Yeah, so mixture suppression
Yeah.
is when one taste can actually mask or reduce the perception of another taste.
So like adding sugar to coffee.
Exactly.
Yeah. To make it less bitter.
The sweetness of the sugar suppresses the bitterness of the coffee,
Okay.
making it more palatable.
And is that just sweet and better, or can that happen?
It can happen with other combinations of tastes as well.
Okay.
It's not limited to just sweet and bitter.
So it's like a taste balancing act.
It is, yeah.
Different tastes interacting,
Right.
influencing each other.
Absolutely, yeah. And that interaction
Yeah.
is really important for
Yeah.
creating that balanced, enjoyable flavor profile in food and beverages.
So chefs and food scientists are using that
They are, yeah.
to create those combinations.
They are, yeah. They're using their knowledge of taste interactions
Yeah.
to create those delicious flavors we all love.
It's amazing how much science
It is, yeah.
goes
yeah.
into crafting delicious food.
A lot more than people realize.
Yeah, it really makes you think
Yeah.
about how this knowledge could be used
Mm-hmm.
to develop maybe even healthier food options.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, imagine if we could use this knowledge to create healthier foods
Yeah,
that are still appealing and enjoyable.
that's a great point.
Yeah.
Understanding the science of taste would
Yeah.
really lead to some innovations
It could, yeah.
in food and health.
Absolutely.
It's a reminder that even something as simple as tasting a strawberry
Yeah.
involves this really complex interplay of sensory perception,
Right, and right.
neural processing,
Personal experience.
and personal experience. Yeah, it all comes together.
Wow, we've covered so much ground.
We have, yeah.
The mechanics of sound waves,
Mm-hmm.
the world of taste buds,
The taste buds.
the power of smell.
It's been quite a journey
It has.
through our sensory world.
And it's really that interconnectedness that
Yeah.
makes it so fascinating.
It is, yeah. The way our senses all work together
Yeah,
to shape our perception of the world.
absolutely.
Really amazing.
Now, before we wrap up this part of our deep dive,
Okay.
I wanted to circle back
Okay.
to that research on hearing loss.
And multiple sclerosis. Yeah. You mentioned different treatment approaches like corticosteroids
Corticosteroids,
and plasma exchange.
plasma exchange, yeah.
Are those treatments specifically for the hearing loss?
So that's a good question.
Yeah.
They're actually standard treatments for
Okay.
MS relapses in general.
Okay.
So they aim to reduce inflammation
Okay.
and suppress the immune system,
Okay.
which is attacking the nervous system in MS.
So in the case of hearing loss caused by those MS lesions,
Yeah.
these treatments are really trying to halt that immune attack.
Exactly, yeah.
Give the nervous system a chance to repair.
Right, so the focus isn't on directly targeting the hearing loss.
Okay.
It's on addressing that underlying cause.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, the fourth case in the research
Yeah.
where the hearing loss was potentially linked
Uh-huh.
to a disease-modifying therapy,
Right.
that really shows how complex it can be
It does, yeah.
to manage MS.
It's a balancing act, trying to control the disease activity.
Yeah.
But sometimes the treatments themselves
Yeah.
can have side effects.
Yeah, so it's a double-edged sword.
It is, yeah.
And in that case, they actually used a
Yeah.
combination of plasma exchange and a TNF modulator.
Right, which is usually avoided in MS.
Because it can trigger demyelination.
Exactly, yeah. It can actually worsen the disease.
Wow, so that sounds risky.
It is risky.
Yeah.
But in that particular case, the patient's hearing loss was so severe
Yeah.
that the potential benefits outweighed the risks.
Yeah.
So they had to make a difficult decision.
Yeah.
But they monitored her very carefully.
Okay.
And she did see improvements in her hearing.
So that's encouraging
It is, yeah.
that there was some improvement.
Yeah, it just goes to show how
Yeah.
individualized treatment approaches need to be in MS.
Absolutely. Each case is different.
It is, yeah. Each case is unique.
And you really have to weigh those potential benefits and risks.
Absolutely, yeah. Careful consideration is key.
Yeah. It really has been an amazing journey.
It has.
Exploring these senses.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground.
I feel like I've learned so much
Good, I'm glad.
about how these senses work and how they all kind of fit together.
Yeah, that interconnectedness is really fascinating.
It is. And, we talked about
Yeah.
how taste and smell work together to create flavor.
Right.
But it goes even beyond that, right?
It does, yeah. Our senses are constantly interacting
Yeah.
and influencing each other.
In ways we probably don't even realize.
Exactly.
So, for example,
Okay.
think about how visual cues
Mm-hmm.
can impact our taste perception.
Yeah, so studies have shown
Okay.
that people actually rate food as tasting better
Okay.
when it's presented in an appealing way.
So, like,
Think vibrant colors,
yeah.
artful plating,
Huh.
even the shape of the dish.
So we really do eat with our eyes.
We do, yeah. It's not just an expression.
It's not just an expression.
There's actually a scientific basis for it.
Wow, that's so interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
And it's not just visual cues, right?
Right.
Sound can play a role, too.
Sound can definitely play a role.
I've never really thought about that before.
Yeah, have you ever noticed
Yeah.
how the sound of a potato chip crunching
Okay.
can actually enhance the perception of its crispiness?
Now that you mention it,
Yeah.
I think I have.
Yeah, it's like the sound adds another dimension
Yeah. It's
to the sensory experience.
like another layer of enjoyment.
Exactly, yeah.
And, it's not just a quirky phenomenon,
Right.
this cross-modal sensory interaction.
Yeah,
It has real implications for how we experience food
it does.
and what we choose to eat.
Absolutely, yeah. It influences our food choices.
And that makes you wonder if we could use this knowledge
Yeah.
to create healthier, more enjoyable eating experience.
Absolutely, yeah. Imagine designing food packaging
Okay.
that enhances the
Right,
sounds
right.
associated with eating, or
Right.
creating dishes that appeal to multiple senses in a way that encourages people to eat more fruits and vegetables.
So it's like using sensory science
It is, yeah.
to kind of nudge people
Yeah.
towards healthier choices.
Yeah, it's a fascinating area of research.
Oh, it's such a cool idea.
Yeah.
I love that.
And it goes beyond food as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, understanding sensory interactions
Okay.
can have implications for other areas of life,
Okay. Like what?
like designing more effective warning signals
Okay.
or creating more immersive virtual reality experiences.
Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah, it's really amazing.
To think about all the different applications
Right.
that's out there.
Yeah, it really highlights the importance of studying our senses,
Yeah.
not in isolation,
Mm-hmm.
but as part of this complex,
Yeah.
interconnected system.
Absolutely.
They all work together.
Well, on that note,
Yeah.
I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive.
Sounds good.
We've covered so much fascinating ground today.
We have
The mechanics of the inner ear.
Yeah.
The power of smell.
the intricacies of taste.
It's been quite a journey
It has.
through the world of our senses.
It really has. And I just want to say
Yeah.
a huge thank you to you for joining us today.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
And to our listeners.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us
Yeah, thanks for listening.
on this deep dive into the fascinating world
Yeah.
of hearing,
Hearing smell and taste.
yeah, and taste. It's been fun.
It has. We'll see you next time.
See you later.